Today I'll be reviewing the recently released free-to-play football game Goals. Now before we get into it, if you want a too long didn't read, skip forward to the wrap-up. Also a warning for the next segment is a bit of context given before I head into the review. I also use the word FIFA because I'm too used to what the games were called back then and it's quicker to say than EA Sports FC. To be transparent so you know the type of person behind this review, I do want to clarify I'm a casual football game fan. I'd buy a FIFA now and again, but not every year. I was okay at the game, I wasn't doing mad tricks or anything flash, but I knew enough to get a cross into a goal on a good day. I also occasionally played online, mostly I'd play locally with family and friends. I'm also not a huge football fan. I don't keep up with the games or the teams or players besides what I see or hear on the news. The only thing I really do regarding football is follow the Auckland FC results and ask other people about the World Cup results. Now you might think, why would this guy review a football game if he's a casual FIFA fan and not really into football in real life? Because FIFA was damn fun. The one thing I really liked about the game was it had the same feeling to an actual football game, that anything could happen. So what is Goals? It's a free-to-play football game released on multiple platforms on June 4th, 2026. It supports cross-play and cross-progression. It markets itself as prioritizing responsive and fast-paced action by facilitating pure skill to determine matches, not hidden scripts or systems. It's been made to be an esports game and compete with other games in the genre. Looking into the development history of Goals yields some interesting info. It all starts with a professional Counter-Strike player, Andreas Thorstensen, forgive me if I mispronounce that, also known as BDS. Alongside being a pro Counter-Strike player, Andreas also became a co-founder of the esports organization SK Gaming. Eventually he stepped away from the organization to look at other ventures and in 2021 made an announcement that he intends to create a competitor to FIFA and eFootball. And I really respect that, to be honest. For football games, FIFA had a huge chokehold on the genre, next up then being PES, I assume by a healthy margin from my perception. So for someone not even dealing in the realm of football games, I respect wanting to aim high and swing for the fences by competing with FIFA. Crazy move, but big balls. Now as we finally head to the game itself, I booted this game up and just went for it. The last time I really played any FIFA regularly was maybe 2022 or 2021. I can't remember if I skipped the situation tutorials, but I went straight into a game and just went for a blind and the feel was familiar. Without looking at the controls and just playing a practice match blindly, I was executing what I wanted based on my memory of classic FIFA controls, and I think that's what I noticed the most at first touch. The feel of Goals is familiar. That's not a bad thing either. The wheel doesn't need to be reinvented with a new entry into this genre, but the wheel can definitely be improved. That familiarity helped me get comfortable with the game fairly quickly, and I can see this being a positive for those looking for an alternative football game. Goals has a more arcade-like feel. It's definitely not a heavy sports sim. That's sort of my preference in general for sports games. I do want players to function according to their attributes, but not so much that it makes strategy and so forth boring, or it means that the game has less flair to keep the game completely grounded. If I want lifelike football, I'll just go outside and kick a ball around. The other thing that popped out to me is that Goals feels surprisingly polished for a free-to-play game. Seeing this was a free-to-play before I played it, I expected a lack of polish, for movement to be maybe sluggish or inputs being slightly delayed, but I am actually really surprised that the game is polished to the extent it is. Now, just because the feel of the gameplay was familiar based on the controls doesn't mean that the controls are full one-for-one. I'd say the controls for Goals are a bit more streamlined. I don't think simplified is the right way to describe it. The controls aren't so streamlined that anyone can get on and start doing crazy tricks before scoring, but not so overly complex that you can only do cool stuff if you use fancy controller grip styles or invest hundreds of hours into this. The controls feel easy enough to learn and are approachable for someone that's new to this game and genre. However, there is enough space for plenty of skill expression with the controls. You will definitely see the difference between someone who has taken the time to practice their moves compared to someone that may be more casual. The game website touts Goals has the world's best sports netcode. It also states that every input is instant, every touch matters, and every mistake is yours. I can't say it is the best, but it's damn good. I honestly can't recall a single time I've experienced a lag or a situation where it felt like the netcode gave me an issue or cost me a play. The game does feel responsive online, and for the most part your player is doing exactly what you're wanting to and when. The ball and the way it reacts and travels also feels appropriate. One thing that did put me off another free-to-play game in its early days was it felt like I was kicking the ball on sand and it never traveled how you think it actually should. Goals doesn't have that problem, so when you're eyeing a pass to a right running player or one across the field, your pass doesn't feel off. Now, to contextualize that, what I said doesn't apply for most super long passes. Shooting feels satisfying and scoring goals never gets boring. The shooting does feel more arcadish, which I don't find to be a bad thing necessarily. Feels like the dev team tried to strike a good balance between goals being money from certain angles or ranges and making players work for their goals. The balance feels good for the most part. Haven't really felt a time where I've gone for a shot that was saved and felt it should have definitely gone in. Defending and off-ball plays is probably the one area I had most issue with. Generally speaking, defending and the like is fine, but there are just some interactions that cause me some annoyance. Now, to be fair, this might also be an issue on my end and my lack of skill to mitigate these situations, so I can accept that. First of these issues are when players collide or run into each other. These interactions feel a bit floaty. It's like your players collide briefly before they repel each other. The system has a moment, then instead of an animation resolving this, the system goes, oh crap, and tries to get back to the status quo. Naturally, it feels like these types of interactions should result in the ball going loose and either player having an advantage. The other issue I have with defending is to do with some moments when it seems like the AI for your team doesn't really make an attempt to move back on defense against your opponent player if you're controlling another player that's not on the ball handler. In some instances, my AI player just kind of stands around while my opponent dribbles around or through. By the time I try to switch to them and play defense, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm trying to run from a standing start. I do like the mechanic where the first half and match draw to a close and you get a visual representation of this on the pitch. I don't know if that's 100% original, as I haven't played any other football games in a long while, but many times I remember a FIFA game being close and needing just a last attempt at goal only for the whistle to blow. Seeing this visually means I can know exactly when I need to really attempt a last minute Hail Mary. It also actually forces you to think on your feet quickly, since you need to keep the ball out of the zone to keep the game alive long enough to equalize or win. I ended up legit winning a game during this, and honestly, hitting a clutch goal this close to the end of a game is such a good feeling. The sound is decent in goals. You'll hear the crowd and the expected sounds from a football game, the sound of when the ball hits someone or is kicked, the sound of grunts and tackles happening from the players, even little bits of dialogue like kick it or shoot the goal and so on. You'll also clearly hear the ref's whistle when needed. Most importantly, you hear when it's nearing the end of the half or game and you're into the last few seconds, which accompanies the visual element we mentioned earlier. For the most part, I think it's okay, as I usually am listening to something else while playing games where I can get by without sound. However, if you're someone that likes to soak in game sounds, it might feel tiring hearing the same sorts of music being played when a goal is scored, and it might feel repetitive. The modes we have for this game are pretty standard. We've got practice scenarios where you're given tasks to complete, like play keep away with the ball for 20 passes or make a goal off a through ball. We've got practice arena where you select one player to play shoot around with. Then lastly is a match against bots mode. Practice mode is okay, but I expected a little more flair, thought we'd see more mini games and a bit more creativity, but the practice scenarios are straightforward and really designed to just get you match ready and shipped off to the main modes. From memory, there is nothing around using the goalkeeper, so I didn't learn anything about using the goalie until I saw people doing stuff in matches and then looked into the controls, which is a shame as defense is really important. It would also be nice if they had a demonstration option for the scenarios too, so that you can see what they want you to achieve. Even though I'm familiar with FIFA and games like it, it did take me a few goes at some practice scenarios before I understood what it was that I needed to achieve. You've then got friendly 1v1 for you and a friend to go head to head. Quick play signs you up for a quick match with a random. There's also a tournament mode, basically where you play a tournament of about 4 matches. You can either play against bots of different difficulties or play an opponent. For the tournaments against bots, the difficulty you choose determines the rewards you'll get. Playing against opponents will also have certain handicaps. For example, one tournament mode restricts your squad to a max rating of 69. You've then got 1v1 ranked, where each win nets you points which help you move up in rank. I'm not too sure if there's a season currently for ranked, but it doesn't seem to be one as of this review. Then there's the main ranked mode, which is knockout. In this mode, you are given a set number of attempts to try and climb the ranked ladder. idea. As you progress through each rank, you qualify for better rewards. There is no demotion, but rather once your attempts are over, whatever rank you ended at is what you will get for a reward at the end of the week. I actually really like this mode, and this is my preferred rank mode to play. Knockout is perfect for me. You can easily do 1 or 2 games a night if you're short on time. It only takes about maybe 5 wins to get some fairly decent rewards at the end of the week, and yeah, you've got the whole week before it resets, so you're given a decent number of attempts too, so it's a pretty fair system, and a week is pretty reasonable to try to get enough wins. Matchmaking times are pretty decent, at least for quick play and knockout mode. I haven't had to wait too long when playing those modes, maybe 2 minutes at most. Mind you, most of my sessions are later at night during the week, so no idea how matchmaking goes during the day or at other times during the weekend. Now, a personal nitpick that isn't against the game, I really hate when people quit too early in a match. I've had a few instances where I scored maybe 2 goals early in the match and my opponent will forfeit. Won't even try to make a comeback. It's not even great goals either. I just got lucky most times. Not only did this happen in ranked modes, but also just in quick match. And just so people don't think I'm a hypocrite, I take my beatings as well. I take the whole beating raw, bro. Like, I've had a few games where I'm down 4-0 within the first 30 minutes and I just play on. Part of it is trying to make a comeback, but the other part is just playing the game. I'd rather play and lose than wait for a lobby. I hope it doesn't become a thing where matches are decided that quick. If it becomes the norm, I do wonder if they would implement penalties, but that seems a bit excessive. Goals also uniquely doesn't have any pre-built teams or anything like that. Instead, you will draft players that make up your club. We will get into the players a bit more, but the idea here is that every person has a unique squad of their own, so no 2 clubs are really the same. I do wish there was more chance to really emphasize your club and make it unique, being allowed to actually make a club name or maybe even like a basic logo design, something along those lines. But at the moment, it's just really basic. You've just got your players and that's really it. Now, before we head into the progression and packs and the players, I do feel it necessary to touch on the in-game currencies as they are really relevant to the packs and players. You have 2 types of currency, points or coins. Points can be earned as rewards from competitive matches or completing daily, weekly, and lifetime challenges. Coins are the premium currency of the game, and as far as I'm aware, can only be bought with real dollars. Points are versatile and very valuable in that they can purchase packs from the store and can also be used to upgrade players, which we will touch on soon. It may seem like a stupid thing to mention, but I do like that the in-game currency is restricted to just 2 types. Some free-to-play games end up having all sorts of currencies that it's almost silly. Moving on to packs and their pricing. The packs are priced okay, at least as of the time of this review. Many of the packs can be bought for $7 New Zealand or less. That's a pie and a drink in a bakery. I honestly was expecting something a bit more expensive, so while $7 New Zealand is a bit more than I'd like, it could be worse. I highly recommend picking up the starter pack when you can. It gives you some players that are 70 plus overall, which will greatly help you in the early stages of building your squad. Speaking of players and building squads, players and goals have the ability to be upgraded. When they are upgraded, they have a permanent boost to stats that also raise the overall rating. For now, what stats are boosted are automatically selected, but apparently there's intent to allow players to choose what stats are improved in future. Some players will only get the ability to upgrade once, while others may get 2 or 3 opportunities to upgrade. In order to qualify to be upgraded, players need to fill out an XP bar, which you can do by just playing the game and doing challenges. The cool part is all players earn XP, so you don't need to play specific players to get them XP. I really love this approach as it means you don't need to grind matches with your weaker players just for XP. Instead, you can let them gain it over time until they're upgraded to a decent level before you put them on the pitch. There's also another cool mechanic for players where they actually age. As they age and reach year 34, they're then at risk of being retired. We'll get more into that retirement aspect in a bit. Like the XP deal, all players in your club age regardless of being played or not, so you can't be tricky and just keep your best players in your collection and only use them for rank matches, for instance. However, players only age when you use them in a match, so if you're inactive for a while or taking a break from the game, your current collection of players will not age. This is a really smart design choice as it forces you to constantly develop more talent and weigh up what players you use to make use of their skills before they age out of their prime. You can't just open packs and hold the best players and sell the weak ones. You need to look at a succession plan for your players because they inevitably will retire. Naturally, you will have staple players in your team that cover a particular role all day, every day. If you're not careful, that one role that's a rock for your team can then turn into a weakness if you don't plan for that player's retirement. When players are retired, they aren't completely useless. You can still swap them or sell them, and for those that you're especially fond of, when they're converted to legends, they keep their stats and characteristics but have a fixed age of 40. I really like this legend conversion mechanic as there is no doubt you will have players you will be a bit fond of, whether that be a clutch midfielder that seems to score when you really need it or a defender that comes through just when you need a tackle to be done. For me, definitely it's going to be great to convert these particular players into legends to keep around and not just swap them or sell them. The other cool element element of upgrading players is that each player can have a very different potential from the next. This rating shows you where they can possibly end up overall after they've completely upgraded. So even though you may pull 2 strikers with a lower 60s base overall, one may have the potential of 65 to 70 and the other 73 to 76. This also causes you to be mindful with your points balance as well. You'll have to decide whether to purchase packs for fresh talent or save them to upgrade existing talent, which then feeds into the microtransactions too, where if you're running low on points, you might be tempted to just buy a pack here or there and save what points you have for important player upgrades. The other dimension to players in goals is that they are all generated. There aren't any based on athletes or people. Aside from that one KSI pack they have at the moment, there is a dev update that gets into how this works and why they wanted to implement this feature, and I really like their rationale. Generated players mean no licensing issues and more creative room for diverse combinations. The players are unique when you pull them, so your squad is likely to have different strengths and weaknesses, and it will be the same for your opponent. Your squad will be unique to you. There's also a friggin' thesis for this that they've provided, like an actual document detailing the specifics behind how they generate unique players. I'm not going to pretend I am smart enough to sit and read through this, but I am highly impressed how open the devs are with how the game works, and to me, seeing this level of transparency really convinces me to give a bit of good faith in the devs and in the game. I previously mentioned you can swap retired players. Swapping is a mechanic where you take 10 players of the same rarity and swap them for a pack that will give you 2 players of that same rarity that may have greater potential. The game is pretty generous with packs, so you will accumulate a lot of basic and common players. This is a great way to build your squad, especially if you are free to play. For one of my common player swaps, I ended up getting a player that's rated 66 overall, but with a potential cap of 85. So already that gets me thinking, what formation could I play to utilize this guy most effectively? What's also great is upgraded players qualify to be swapped for the rarity they are at. So you could upgrade a player that's common up to being uncommon and do that 10 times, then use those players to swap for a pack of 2 players with better potential. And on the note of ratings and overall attributes, as much as we use ratings to judge how good a team is or how good a player is, it does really come down to skill. I've had a few games where my team is at a modest 65 overall. I've defeated teams in the 70 plus range that had more players of a higher rarity than I had. Again, sometimes it's not the tools you have, but how you use them that will determine matches. Any game that has crossplay and or cross progression immediately gets a positive response from me. Fortunately, Goals is one of those games. I tried Goals on my Steam Deck and it worked fine. Everything I earned or had adjusted on my PS5 was there when I played on Steam Deck. I also didn't adjust any settings and it worked well playing solo or online. This is a huge dub for anyone that's really into this game. Allows you options to game around the house if you've got a gaming handheld, and since it's free, you're not forking out for another copy of the game. I've also looked into the companion app Goals has, and it's pretty straightforward. I expected a bit more from the app, but it allows you to do basic things in the game without being at your console or PC, like buying packs or cosmetics or adjusting your lineup. This is mostly for those really die-hard players that want to upgrade their players during their lunch breaks or while they're waiting for their wives to finish shopping. I feel it's a missed opportunity here to maybe get some mini games going or some sort of football manager light mode that feeds into your Goals club. Something fun like that would have been great to see from a companion app. The last things I do want to touch on before we wrap up is just the experience of the game and the thought that's gone into it. Goals is an addictive game. That's a lot for a casual like me to say. The feeling of clutching a win or making a comeback or putting on a dominant performance is always satisfying, and despite some frustrations you may have with the game at times for whatever reason, you can't help but want to tweak your squad and run it back for round 2. Goals gives me that feeling of when I first played Overwatch or Apex or even FIFA. Even though I was getting rolled, I wanted to keep playing. I also wanted to speak on how much thought has gone into this game. Doing my own research into the website has brought up surprise after surprise, learning how much detail and thought goes into their decisions, the breakdowns given for why they've decided on implementing a particular mechanic, the constant reinforcement of their vision and what they want players to experience, even the timing of the launch to coincide with the 2026 World Cup, the damn thesis they've got on their player generation. For me, this level of transparency and consideration conveys a very passionate team. If you ever speak to someone that's truly passionate about their hobby or interests, they want to show it to you. They want to explain it and make you understand why something is special or why it should be enjoyed, and that's the same vibe I get when I reflect on my experience with this game and reading what the devs have posted. Now it's time for the Too Long Didn't Read. We asked two important questions. What is our arbitrary rating for the game? If Goals were a player I drew from a pack, it started as a base 75 and slowly upgraded into an 8. Playing the game more, learning more about its philosophy and looking at it within the context of its genre's landscape, I think it reaches an 8. As players and consumers, we always benefit from choice and options, and I think Goals is a very welcome option for those that are seeking alternatives to what's on offer in terms of football games. Despite some issues here and there and some missed opportunities, I'd recommend this to anyone to have a go. Is Goals worth your money or time? I'd say definitely worth the time if you're a football fan or into football games. Also worth the time if you're curious or always wanted to get into FIFA but didn't want to keep up with the yearly releases. This is free to play, so you're not risking any money, and if you like it, you can go hard on there with the packs. I think a lot of thought and passion has gone into this game, and I truly appreciate it. That's my review of Goals. Let me know if you have played it or not, and if you agree or disagree with my takes. Until the next one, take care and off.